Well, good morning. Happy Independence Day weekend to everyone. An appropriate time, we thought, to talk to the first independent candidate for governor to qualify for the November ballot here in Massachusetts, and that would be Evan Falchuk of the United Independent Party, an entrepreneur who helped build the Boston-based global healthcare company Best Doctors Incorporated. Evan, welcome back.
John, thank you for having me.
Congratulations on making the ballot.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you as part of the gubernatorial debates come the fall.
Thank you.
After the Supreme Court threw out the Massachusetts abortion clinic buffer zone law last month, most of the candidates for governor were quick to denounce the ruling. But you took a somewhat different approach on your website, I noticed, noting that you'd had concerns about that law for some time. Please explain.
Well, the trouble is what was described by the Supreme Court is that the law was really well-intentioned, but it was deeply flawed because it was written in a way that made it very likely that it was going to be found to be unconstitutional. And if you can get the Supreme Court of the United States to agree 9-0 on something, it's pretty unconstitutional. So it's tragic in that sense because we have an obligation to make sure that we protect women going in to seek health care services and their families, as well as the workers in those clinics. So the legislature has to get to work quickly to make sure that they put in place legislation to strengthen laws against harassment, intimidation, to make sure that if there are other physical forms of safety, whether it's armed security personnel or infrastructure changes to protect women, that they do it. And it's action that has to be taken.
I mean, I don't want to force this on you, but does this episode and the reaction of your competitors speak to an issue in our political culture that's relevant to this race?
It does, in the sense that we've got the solutions to problems that feel good and we don't worry so much about how well it's going to work at the end of the day. So things shouldn't be written that are unconstitutional. It's a form of legislative malpractice to pass laws that are unconstitutional. And they create new problems down the road because now we're in a situation where one of the policies that was in place to protect women seeking those services is now gone. So the legislature has to act quickly to protect women and the workers in those facilities.
You know, when you go on your website and you read your blog postings and so forth, your fire as a candidate is pretty consistently trained on Democrats. You recently called Martha Coakley's settlement with the Partners Healthcare a surrender of the public interest, and you called the argument between Coakley and Steve Grossman over a people's pledge on campaign finance a sham. Are you running as a Democrat, even though you're an independent?
I'm running as an independent. I founded the United Independent Party because I believe everyone is equal and that everyone's civil rights have to be protected and that the government has to spend our money wisely. Now, there are large numbers of Massachusetts voters who are independent who feel the same way. And we did a poll with David Paleologos to find out what voters thought. 58% of Massachusetts voters want to see a new independent party in Massachusetts. So I'm running as someone who wants to be able to speak clearly and plainly about whatever the issues are. Cost of living, one of the most important ones, driven by things like our housing costs being too high and healthcare being too expensive. Most voters don't think that either of the two parties represent that anymore. So the most important thing that I'm doing in this campaign and what we're out covering the state talking to voters about every single day is the need to address issues like the high cost of living in our state and the need for leadership that's focused on actual solutions to these problems and is willing to talk about them in specific ways. We see too much of the vague platitudes and not enough of actual specific detailed plans.
All right, let's take a short break, and I want to follow up on that point with you. We'll continue our conversation in a moment with independent candidate for governor Evan Falchuk. So please stay with us.